Hi, I'm Don, and this is The Hobbyist Geek. Welcome back, y'all. So today we are continuing our Forest Adventures miniature dollhouse build. Last time around, we got a ton of furniture and decorations done, and frankly, I expect more of the same today. This is part 2 of a planned 6 video series to complete this project. So how about enough talking for me? We get right into this. Hi there. Before we get into today's build, this is your reminder to like, share, and subscribe. And if you feel the content is worth it, you can join our membership right here on YouTube, where you'll have access to all of my videos as soon as they are uploaded, typically months in advance. And now, back to the build. Alrighty, we're going to kickstart today with step 41. And you're going to need this K7 piece here, nice and pretty. And you're going to need the green leather cut to the M5-1 template. Much like the red, this is a sticker, so we can just pull the backing off. And by the way, when you're cutting this, you can actually glue the template to the back and cut it. It's designed for that. There we go. And now we're just going to wrap it right around. So let's make that happen. All right, look at that. Spectacular. All right, now we're going to flip this over and look at the underside here. We're going to take 4 of these M97 pieces, and we're basically just going to be gluing them down into the 4 corners, a little bit inside, to make the legs and feet. So let's go ahead and make that happen. All right, should look a little something like that when you're done. And that is the end of step 41. Alrighty, now we're going to combine steps 42 and 43. We've got 2 of these K6 pieces here. 2 green leather cut to the M5-5 template, and green leather to the M5-9. Basically what we're going to do is take the M5-5, we're going to stick it right on top, just like that. If you have some excess like I do, make sure you trim it. There we go. And now we'll take one of the -9s and we're just going to wrap it all the way around. All right, just like that. As before, make sure to trim any excess and then repeat everything to give yourself a second one. And there you go. 2 of these pieces fully assembled, ready to rock and roll, and that ends steps 42 and 43. All right, step 44. We have 2 K10 pieces here. 2 each of M5-3 and M5-4 and M5-10 templates, all cut into the green leather. And I'm pretty sure it's obvious where all of this is going to go, but I will show you one anyway. So we're going to start with one of these. I'm just going to pop this puppy on here. Look at that beauty. And again, make sure you cut off any excess. All right, there we go. Then we'll get one to match the other side. Same deal. And there you go. Now we're going to take an M5-10 And you're going to want to start on this end, this corner right here. So you got the rounded one and then on the short end. And it's going to come around that bend and to the back and then down. This long bottom edge here does not get part of this sticker. All right, look at that. That actually fit perfectly, lined just right. It is a little wide though, so I'm going to have to cut a little excess off the inside, but otherwise we're good. And then we're going to repeat all of that with this to make a second one. There we go. 2 more pieces, ready to rock and roll, and that is the end of step 44. Alrighty, step 45 is more of the same. We have part K11 here, 2 pieces of M5-2 green leather and 1 of M5-8. The M5-2s will go on the front and the back, and the M5-8 will wrap around from this corner, around the rounded edges, to this corner. This edge does not get any leather. So I'm just going to go ahead and apply this, and I'll be right back. Alrighty, there we go. Look at that beauty. All right. And that is the end of step 45. All right, time to start putting everything together. So we're going to bring out this piece, the one with the feet. This will be the bottom of our couch. We got both of our armrests here and our back. What we're going to do is we're going to glue the bottom of the armrest, and it's going to line up with this rounded edge being slightly back from the front. So take this 90-degree edge and we're going to line it up in the corner just like that. Same on the other side, with the backing lined up flush with the back of the couch. So let me go ahead and get all that glued in. I'll show you what it looks like. All right, should look a little something like that when you're done. Now, I'm going to jump into step 47 just a little bit here because I don't want this glue to fully dry yet. I'm going to bring these out, and these are going to be little cushions. So they're going to go right here in the center, and they got to fit between those armrests. Okay, and of course in front of the back. So let me go ahead and get those glued into. All right, there we go. Cushions are in place. That looks spectacular. All right, now we're going to let this dry before we move on to the next step. So let me go ahead, let this dry, and I'll be right back. Alrighty, here's hoping this is dry enough that we can finish step 47. What we're going to do is we're going to take 3 pieces of this lace ribbon here, cut to M15-4, and then 2 M15-3 pieces. And we're basically going to put one here on the back of the couch and then one each on the arms. So let me go ahead and get those all glued in place too. And there we go. Lace is in place. And now we're just going to take 2 of the pillows that we made in the last video. I'm going to throw them on here for some additional cushion. There we go. I got one a little lopsided here just to kind of make it seem like it's, thrown together. But otherwise, I think we're looking good. And that is the end of step 47. Alrighty, step 48 is nice and easy. We have 2 of these C11 planks and 2 of these C12 planks. And as you might have guessed, tab, slot, in it goes, just like that. Again for the other side. There you go. And then we will close off the box over here. And there you go. That is the end of step 48. Alrighty, for step 49, the first thing we're going to do is take the C13 plank, and we're basically just going to glue it right on top of our box. So let's go ahead and make that happen. Alrighty, look at that. Now we're going to take some of this green leather, cut to the M5-7 template, and we're just going to stick it right on top of our box. Look at that. Now we've got the M5-6. Same deal. This time it'll go around the edge of the box, completely encircling it. And there we go. Look at that. All right. Now we're going to take two of the books that we did in step 17, and we're just going to glue them on top. And there you go. Look at that. A nice little leather covered stand with some books on it. Absolutely beautiful. And that is the end of step 49. Alrighty, all time for step 50 here. And we have this beautiful little bunny piece. This is M61. And you know, there's a nice big hollow in here. We're going to take some of this M43. We're going to glue that down in. And then we're just going to top it with one of these beautiful pieces here off of M22. So let me go ahead and make that happen. Alrighty, there we go. Look at that. Nice little bunny planter. And that is the end of step 50. All right, for step 51, we're going to take this thing. This is M28. And basically what we're going to want to do here is cut off some of these sprigs. And you're going to want 7 of them. So let me go ahead and cut all of these out. All right, there we go. Now we got 7 of these beautiful things. And what we're going to do with them is glue them inside this. This is M28. So we're basically just going to take all 7. We're going to glue them all in there. Nice and neat. Now, how you want to go about the next step is personal preference. I'm not sure if I want to do this first or the next bit. You see, what we're going to have to do is break some of this stuff off from the M22, these little beads, and then we're going to glue them at various points along the stems here. Now the instructions have us doing this, gluing them into the bead first, and then putting that on. The alternative, of course, would be put those beads on first and then glue this into the pot. I'm going back and forth as to which direction would be the easiest to do. I think I'm going to try decorating each stem first and then going from there. So let me give that a shot. Alrighty, y'all. What do you think? Yeah, the glue will dry clear, so that'll be nice. But I think that came out fairly well. Individual beads on the leaves down below, followed by a little grouping up top. And we have ourselves a nice stem, and only 6 more to go. So let me go ahead and make that happen. Alrighty, that, my friends, is what I've got as a final product. What do you think? Now, I gotta say, I think doing it slow and steady, 1 bead at a time, really worked out well for me, but I'd love to hear how you guys managed to accomplish this piece. Let me know in the comments. But that is the end of step 51, and we can now move on. All right, for step 52, we're going to take one of these. This is M35. Now, oddly, the picture seems to indicate that you want to cut it down here, but that's just too big. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it right about here so that you're left with this. And you have this M85 here, and we're just going to glue it down right in there to make a nice little potted plant. So let me go ahead and do that. And there we go. Nice and easy. Step 52 is now complete. Step 53 is another easy one. We have another of these part 67, paper product 67. And we're going to fold it just like we did the last time and make ourselves a little box. So let me go ahead and do that. I'll be right back. And there we go. Another little paper box ready to rock and roll. And that is the end of step 53. Okay, so now we're going to be taking, this is for step 54, our paper string here. This is M17, or paper rope, or whatever this is. And we're going to start here, and we're going to glue it all the way around. We're making ourselves another basket. Make sure you cut off two lengths, 20 millimeters each. Those will be for the handles, which we will get to in just a bit. So this is going to be just like the last basket we made. So let me go ahead and wrap this around, and I'll be right back. Alrighty, and there we go. Another nice little basket complete. And now we're going to take these, and we're just going to kind of roll them into a U. And then we will glue them down, one on either side, to make handles. Alrighty, there we go. Look at that. Alright, now we're going to take this. This is M43 again. We're going to stuff the bottom of the basket with it. So let's go ahead and get some of this in there. Look at that. Very nice. Now for a little finishing touch here, we're going to take this. This is M23. I'm just going to pull one of these off, just like that. And we're going to glue that in on one side. All right, there we go. And now we're just going to take one more piece off of this. This is that M28 again. Just snip a smaller piece off. There we go. Maybe about like that. We'll glue this puppy in too. And there we go. Look at that beauty. That is the end of step 54. Alrighty, here's what we're going to need for step 55. We have M96 here. This is a nice, beautiful little piece. We have two 10 millimeter lengths of this M19 copper line. And what we're going to want to do with these is make a U out of them. Much like that. Do it on both. All right. And then we're basically going to take these, we're going to glue them one to either side. So there's nothing to hold it in place at all. And you're going to want to kind of angle it up a little bit, kind of like this. Okay. So chances are you're probably going to have to hold it in place for a bit to let things dry. So let me go ahead and do that, and I'll be right back. All right, so what you're left with is something kind of like that. And now what we're going to do is take this piece, which is M94, and we're going to glue it right on top. So let's go ahead and make that happen too. All right, should look a little something like that. And in that center hole right there, we are going to cut off, wow, very small, 1 second. There we go. Get this lined up just right. And we're going to cut one bead off of our chain here. This is that M100 again. And we're going to glue that into that center hole. There you go. That is what you're left with. Can't wait for the glue to dry and see what that final product looks like. But that is gorgeous. And that completes step 55. All right, for step 56, we're going to take this absolutely gorgeous piece here. It's going to be a nice little kettle or something. And we've got two more 10 millimeter lengths of this copper wire that we will turn into U's, and we're going to create handles right on the top of this. So let me go ahead and make that happen. And there we go. A couple of beautiful handles on there. And that is the end of step 56. All right, for 57, we're going to take this piece, and this is M76. And we're going to cut about a 15 millimeter length. So about here-ish. All right. And now we're going to slice it long ways into thirds. All right. So now we have three beautiful little pieces here. And we're going to bring the container from the last thing out. And we're just going to drop them in there with a little glue, of course. All right, and this is what you should be left with. Ah, beautiful. And that is the end of step 57. Alrighty, for step 58, we're going to bring this back out. This is that M76. And we're just going to slice 3 pieces off. Alrighty, so here we go. We've got our 3 slices. And we have this little bowl. This is M93. We're going to place all 3 of them in there. There we go. A little something like that, I guess. Should be just fine. And that is the end of step 58. Alrighty, so here's what we're going to need for step 59. We have M47, M48, and a 30 millimeter length of M19, that beautiful copper wire. So what we're going to do first is glue 47 into 48. And you kind of want to make the petals line up to achieve the look they have in the instructions. So let me go ahead and get that glued in. And there we go, just like that. Now, while we're letting that glue dry, we're going to bring out our wire here, and we're going to do a little bit of manipulation. First, get yourself some round stock, and right in the center, we're going to make a U out of this thing. And there we go. Now what you're going to want to do is bend the legs here so that they are perpendicular. I'm going to go little less than halfway, give or take, so that you are left with something that looks like this. Now, these are the feet. These right here will be the feet. So it should stand upright. If you need to bend it a little bit more and give it a little test, go for it. And then what we're going to do is take this and we're going to glue it on there. We're making another plate display. So let me go ahead and make that happen. I'll be right back. And there you go. A nice little plate display ready to rock and roll. That is the end of this step. Alrighty, step 60 sounds easy, but it's not gonna be. Basically, we've got two of these beautiful little pieces. These are M90s. They do not have a flat bottom, so they don't stand upright, which is going to be fun. And we have two lengths of that M19 wire cut to 8 millimeters in length. What we're going to want to do is make a U out of these and then glue it to the side. We're basically making handles on a cup. So scale is going to be an issue, particularly with making the U with the wire. Let's see what we can do. All right, should be something like that. And then you're just going to glue it to the side, though. As you can see, mine is still a little too big, so I'm going to have to squeeze that even a little more and go from there. Let me see what I can do here. I'll show you what it looks like. All right, there we go. It's about as good as I can get it at this scale. Handles still look a little big to me, but not too bad. And now we've got two of them, and that is the end of that step. All right, here's what we're going to need for step 61. First, we have M78. Looks like a giant log of orange. And we're going to want to cut 2 slices off of this thing. So let's do that. And there we go, 2 slices of orange. And, or maybe lemon, but I think those are oranges. And then we're going to take J20 here, this beautiful little thing, and we're going to glue them on top. And there we go. Our orange slices are perfectly arranged. Awesome. And that is the end of step 61. All right, here's what we're going to need for step 62. First, we're going to take this. This is M28 again. And we're going to take one of these and just cut it off. Much like that. And then what we're going to want to do is just cut off 2 little sections that have at least 1 leaf. So you've got 2 little pieces that look something like that. All right. Now, what we're going to do is take 2 little bundles from this. This is M23. We're going to glue them down here and then stick the stems on the back of them to complete the look. All right, so you should have something that looks like this when you're done. And that is the end of step 62. Alrighty, here's what we're going to need for step 63. For this one, we have a 25 millimeter length of that M19 wire. Now this one is going to be rolled slightly differently. You kind of want to break it into thirds, and you want to roll the top third down so that this is pointed downwards at about the half and stops at about the halfway point. So let me see if I can make that happen and show you what I'm talking about. Something similar to this, kind of like a fish hook. What you're actually making is a sink faucet. So that actually is just about right. And then what we're going to want to do is take one of these M97 pieces. Okay. The flat, wider side, that's the bottom. Okay. And you're going to want to stick this into the top, just like this, and glue it down. So let me get that done. All right. So it should look a little something like that. When you're done, try to make it as level as possible. But with that overhang there, it's not going to stand upright. So that's going to make it harder. You definitely do not want the wire to go through all the way through the bottom though. You're going to want to leave that flat end there. And then we're going to take our M100 beads here. We're going to cut one off. And we're just going to glue that one to the side of the bottom right down here. So let me make that happen and I'll show you what it looks like. Alrighty, so it should look a little something like that when you're done. And that, my friends, is the end of step 63. Alright, for step 64, we've got a piece of this lace here cut to M15-5 template. And all we're going to be doing is folding this in thirds. So we'll fold one side over into thirds. And of course, we will have to glue it to make sure it maintains its look, and then fold the other side over. So you are left with something that looks like this. So let me go ahead and get this glued together, and I'll be right back. And there you go. Nice and easy. A little messy because the lace, the glue goes right through, but there you go. And that, my friends, is the end of step 64. Alrighty, so here is what we're going to need for this next section. While assembling this, remember, orientation is critical. We're going to kick things off with C7 here, and we're going to want it in this orientation for the assembly. Then we're going to take C8 here, and you're going to want it in this orientation with the C8 facing outwards, and this tab here is going to go into this slot right there with this tab facing left. Before we get to that, the instructions don't say to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Let's take C10, and in this slot, we're going to put this tab. So we're going to make an angle just like this. I have a feeling this is going to make life a little easier for us. So that when this tab here will go into this slot, and then this tab into this slot, just like that. So now the instructions do say to glue this in, so I'm going to get a little glue along the seam. We'll get this thing in. All right. There we go. Look at that. Now for this next section, this is going to be fun. Let's start with C5 here, and these tabs are identical, so it doesn't matter which one, but just pick a tab. That's going to go into this slot here. All right, and this is C6, and it's going to go in like this. So this tab will go into this slot, and then this tab will go into this slot. So let's see if we can make that happen. All right, and there you go. look at what we've got so far. And this, I'm afraid, is the end of step 65. All right, here we have the parts we need for step 66. Nice and easy. We have C9 here, and that is going to close off this end here. So this tab will go into that slot there, and then this slot onto this tab. So let's get that in. All right, look at that. And now we're going to bring this around to this side. And you notice that big hole there? Well, we have a piece of M16, this beautiful silver, cut to the M16-1 template. We're going to want to glue this down over top of it like that, with the silver facing the top. So let's go ahead and get that glued in too. All right, so that is what you're left with. A beautiful basin with a silver bottom, looking spectacular. And that is the end of step 66. Alrighty, well, here is what we need for step 67. We have two of these part 53 paper pieces. This is part 54. This is part 50, and you can tell because it's a little wider and it's got this cutout down here. And we have part 56. Now you may notice I've already kind of folded the edges down, and we're going to be applying them all to this. So part 50 will be glued in right here, just like so. And then 54 will go in here. 53 will go on the two edges. And of course, this is our countertop. Now with the countertop, make sure you get this cut out in the corner, lined up just right, and the edges will fold right over the counter edge there. So let me go ahead and glue all this in. I'll show you what it looks like. Alrighty, here we go. Look at that. It's amazing how much a few pieces of paper can change the way something looks. And this looks spectacular. Little issue over here. I mean, even when it's fully compressed, it still looks like it's popping out a little bit. And I'm not sure what to do about that. But other than that one little section there, I think it came out looking beautiful. All right, well, let's see what is next. All righty, step 68 is going to be a fun one. We're going to take some M9 cloth, cut the M9-2 template here. And what we're going to do is take a 35 millimeter long length of this copper wire, and that's M19, the M19 copper wire. I'm basically going to lay it here and then glue this, but roll it over. Okay, so kind of like that. It's kind of hard to do without anything to hold it in place, but you get the idea. We're going to do this, roll this over. So you got something that kind of looks like this. And the reason I'm describing this now is because you don't want the glue to dry just yet, because once you've done that, you're going to want to fold all of this in to make it into kind of a curtain. Okay, a folded curtain. It's eventually going to cover this area. Okay, so that's about the size you want it folded. It can be a little longer. You definitely don't want it any shorter because it's going to cover this whole area here. So let me glue this in and see what I can come up with. All right, So we've got a little something like this. Note, very little sticking out here, whole bunch here. Now the instructions actually say to cut another 10 millimeters off at this stage, now that you've got this done. I don't really see that as necessary. What we're going to do is taking our piece here, we're going to glue it in here. Okay, so the objective, of course, is to make it so it looks like we have a curtain coming across over here. And it should look maybe a little better than that, but a little something like that when you're done. So let me go ahead and glue this in. I'll play with the form a little bit and see if I can't make something that looks pretty nice. And there we go. Not perfect by any stretch, but I think that actually came out looking pretty good. That's what it looks like from behind. What do you guys think? Anyway, that completes step 68 and actually step 69 as well. All right. Actually, there are more parts to step 69 that I don't know why they didn't just give it another name. They continued it on, so the instructions were a little confusing. But this is actually going to be part of step 69 as well. We're going to be decorating our countertop. We're going to take this into bits and pieces here. We're going to start with this. This is that lace ribbon M15 cut to the M15-6 template. And we're going to glue it here on our corner, about like so, coming down around the corners there. So let me go ahead and get that glued in. All right, should look a little something like that when you're done. Now we're going to bring out, let me pull this out here. This, our little basket that we built, that is going to glue into our corner here. Do not cover that little notch. So let's get that glued in. There we go. Notice I'm not going past these edges here either. There's going to be walls on these sides. So there we go, just like that. Now we're going to go ahead and take our little pot here. We're going to glue that down right next to the basket over here. There you go. Look at that. And we're going to take our faucet and we're going to glue that right here over the sink. All right, look at that. Awesome. All right, next up, we have another of these M90 pieces. This is not one of the cups we made earlier. This is a new piece. All right, and that's going to glue down on the countertop next to our pot. And there you go. Mine's kind of falling over a little because the glue hasn't dried, but right about there. All right, next up will be our little plate display that we made. And that will go next to our cup. There we go, look at that. And then we will follow that up with our little pot o' carrots or whatever that is. And that'll go closer to the end. Okay, right about there. Now we've got our bowl of carrots, and that'll kind of go in between and a little forward. There we go. Look at that. All right. Now we're going to take one of the mugs that we did make, and that'll go over here on the end. There we go, right about there. And next up is our cutting board, and that'll go into this flat area there. Just about like that. Next up, our little cloth here that came from step 64, and that's going to go into this interior corner, just barely hanging over the edge a little bit. There we go. And now we've got our plate of what I can only assume are grapes. And that is actually going to glue hovering over the sink, much like that. So let's get that in too. All right, should look a little something like that. Now we're not quite done yet, but I recommend letting the glue fully dry before we get to the next part. So that's what I'm going to do. Alrighty, y'all. To finish off, for real this time, step 69, we're going to take our chain here and we're going to cut off 4 of these little beads. So let's go ahead and make that happen. Alright, and now that we have 4 beads, what we're going to do is we're going to glue them right onto these dots that they have here and here, and 2 more here and here, and these will be the handles for our cabinets, the little knobs. So let's go ahead and get those glued in and see what it looks like. And there we go. Step 69 is complete, and we have a beautiful kitchen counter, fully stocked and ready to rock and roll. All right, let's see what's next. Alrighty, step 70 is nice and easy. We have M84 here and 3 15mm lengths of that same copper wire that we've been using. And basically we're just going to glue all 3 of these into a little jar, I guess like little breadsticks or something. So let's get those glued in, show you what it looks like. There we go. Nice and neat, nice and easy. And step 70 is complete. Alrighty, here's what we're going to need for step 71. This should be fun. Let's kick things off with M88 here, and we're going to be cutting off 3 pieces. You want 2 small spoons and 1 large spoon. So let's go ahead and get those cut off. All right. So there we go. Our spoons have been cut. Beautiful. Now we're going to take this. This is H5. Note the orientation. So we've got the large dip on either side here. That's the bottom. If you look at the way H5 is printed, right, it's actually printed right side up, so that's good. We're going to deal with this side though, the smooth side, and we have 2 of these H4 pieces. Again, note the orientation. This slit right here, it's got a large lip on one side and a small lip on the other. The small lip is the bottom. This tab on the back will go in the slot, and again on the other side, just like that. And now we have H6 here, which will slide in with these tabs on either side going into those slots. Just like that. Beautiful, huh? Now we have another piece of the ribbon here cut to the M15-5 template. And this ribbon is just going to glue right in on There. So let me get that glued in. I'll show you what it looks like. All right, there we go. Should look a little something like that. And now, oh, I didn't put this away. We don't actually need this for this step. That's fine. All right. We're going to take our little assembly here, this one. We're going to glue that into this right-hand corner. There we go. And then we have an M51 bead, and that'll go into the left-hand corner. Just like that. And next up, we've got the second of our, man, this is hard to get. Second of our little cups that we made, and that's going to go in the center. So let's go ahead and glue that in too. Look at that, how beautiful. All right, now on these three little bumps that we've got here, that's where we're going to glue our spoons, with the small ones on the two outer bumps and large one in the center. So if you need to, let the glue dry on your cup here so that it stays upright, and then we'll get started on those, and I'll show you what it looks like. And there we go. Look at that. Spectacular. And that is the end of step 71. Alrighty, well, here's what we're going to need for step 72. This is going to be a fun one. We have M98 and M99. So the larger is M98, smaller is 99. We have another M48 piece, another M47. We have 7 of these M79 beads. Now these are smaller than they look in the instructions. They're also more red. The instructions show them as orange, but these are very, very, very red. We have 6 more beads cut off from our bead chain, little gold ones. And we have 6 of these. This is that gold foil cut to 10 millimeter by 10 millimeter squares. And you need 6 of them. And that's what you need to get started here. First thing we're going to do is take M98, the larger one, and on this smaller end here, we're going to glue M48 as kind of a raised plate. So let's make that happen. All right, should look a little something like that. Glue is still drying, which is why I brought this down. And we're going to take this is M99, the smaller one, and that's going to glue right in the center on that small side as well. So let's make that happen too. All right, should look a little something like that when you're done. And now let's let this fully dry before we get to the next step. Actually, there's something we can do while we're waiting for it to dry. We can take these gold beads, and we've got our foil here. And we're basically going to flip the foil over, put the bead down in the center, and then wrap it all up. So let's get that done. And you should be left with something that looks a little like this. And now you got to do it 5 more times. So now I'll do that and I'll be right back. Alrighty, there we go. With all 6 of those done, we're going to bring this back out again. And what we're going to do is put one layer of these little beads all around the base, just outside our centerpiece here. So let's go ahead and get those glued in too. Alrighty, so that is what we are left with those beads in place. Very nice. Now what we're going to do, And of course this tipped over. But now what we're going to do is glue this piece. This is M47, and that's just going to glue right on top in the center as a second level of this raised plate. And there you go, just like that. And with that done, we're going to take these 6 beads, and we're just going to pile them up on top there to finish this off. And there we go. Take a look at that beauty. Awesome. And that is the end of step 72. All right, for step 73, we're going to need M60. That is an interesting little piece there. We're going to need a 7mm length of that copper wire. And we're going to have to cut off another one of our golden spoons, another small one. So let's get that cut off. Alrighty. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this, we're going to fold it into a U, glue it onto here as a handle, just as we've done several times now. And then we'll just glue the spoon to the platter to finish the look. So let me go ahead and do that, and I'll be right back. And there you go. And that is the end of step 73. Alrighty, step 74 is nice and easy. We've got this beautiful piece right here. This is M62. And this is going to be another wonderful bowl. And so we're going to take a little sprig off of our M22 here, and another sprig off our M23, and we're going to fill our bowl. So let's make that happen. And there we go. Nice and easy. That is the end of step 74. Step 75 is another easy one. We have M67 here, and just look at that beautiful design on there. That is gorgeous. And we've got another one of our beads from our little chain there. That's what, M100, yeah. And we're just going to glue this to the top to make a little, well, topper, a little lid, I guess. So let's get that in. And there we go. That is it. Nice and easy. Step 75 is now complete. Alrighty, for step 76, this is going to be fun. We have J6 here, and we have J7, and that big tab there is going to go into that big slot right there. I'm going to put it so that the J7 is actually facing this flat edge here. I believe there's going to be a wall on this side, so that should hide it. So let's get that in. Instructions do say to apply a little bit of glue, so we will do so. All right, look at that. And now we have J8, which will go into that slot. And again, just a little bit of glue to hold it in place. There we go. Look at that. Beautiful. Now it's time to populate the tabletop. To begin, we will take what we just built here in step 75, and that'll go over here in this this area. Make sure not to go past this flat edge. Like I said, I believe there's going to be a wall here. So let's get that glued in. Alrighty, should look a little something like that. Then we're going to follow that up with our stacked plates. These right here. That'll go on next. All right, after that, we'll do our bowl here. You know what? No, I take that back. I think what I'll do next is the candle. This is from step 11, way back then. And that's going to go closer to the end, the rounded end here. Right about there. Now we'll do the bowl. And we'll finish it off with our little cup that we made that's got the little spoon coming off. And there you go. Look at that. The kitchen island is complete. Wonderful. Alrighty, here's what we're going to need for step 77. To kick things off, we've got a J18 piece here. And then we have 2 of these L4s. And these 2 posts on top will go into 2 of the holes on the bottom here. Just like that. And then we'll take the other L4 and do the same for the other 2 holes. All right, those are very tight, despite it literally being a square peg going into a round hole. But it is what it is. And now we're going to take L5 here, and you notice that little slot right there? Well, that's for this little tab. This larger piece here is actually going to be facing down, so it's like this. We're basically going to stick it through and then push it down, and it's going to create a little bit of a spacing between the 2 sets of legs. All right, there it goes. That's actually tougher to get in than it looks. Wow. But it's in. We are good. And now we've got to do it all over again to make a second stool. So let me get that done, and I will be right back. Alrighty, there we go. 2 stools, ready to rock and roll. And that is the end of step 77. Alrighty, so here's what we're going to need for step 78. We're going to need 2 of these I6 pieces. Nice, beautiful pieces. 1 J3 and 2 J4s. And basically what you've got here is a series of steps. J4, J4, J3. And you can see there are 2 holes, 1 for each of these. So this will eventually go in here, but first I'm going to put in both of these J4s. Just like that. And then J3 will be on that tab right there. Just like that. And then we fill in the other side with the other I6. And there you go. A nice, beautiful set of stairs. And that is the end of step 78. All right, this is what you're going to need for step 79. This is part H1. Note, way up here, you've got this little slit. This doesn't go all the way through. It's only on this side. Same over here. That designates that this is the interior. Okay. It's also the side that's got the H1 label on it. We have part 8 from our paper stock here, and that is going to come on here, and those little lines are going to help you line up where the top of this goes. Okay, so it should line up like that and be pretty even here on the window and all around. Of course, once this has been glued in and set, you can get in there with an X-Acto knife and trim it. In fact, you should do exactly that. But for now, we are going to glue this on. Make sure you don't cover your tab here, and that the window lines up. Let me go ahead and get this on, and I'll be right back. Alrighty, and it should look a little something like that. when you are done. Very, very cool. And that is the end of step 79. Alrighty, y'all. So here's what we're going to need for step 80. This is going to be tricky, but hopefully not too hard. Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to take, well, we've got two of these J13s, and we've got two of these J9s. And the short version is we're placing the J9s into the J13s, much like that. Of course, this one will go on the other side. And then, yeah, see, this is a little tight, but the idea being that we should be able to open the windows when we're done. Now, the smaller end of these J13s going to go into here from the outside, okay? So it will go in much like this. Let's see if I can make this happen. There we go. Much like that. And these windows should be able to open and close pretty easy. Put some glue here on the inside of the window frame, a little more here, and try not to get it into the holes when you're assembling. Now the instructions do say just do the bottom one first, then you plug these both into the top one, leaving them open so that you can plug these holes in as you slide it in. So let's see if we can do it the way the instructions say. Okay, we've got some glue on the bottom sill. We'll throw this in. Just like that. Now let's get some glue on the top sill. There we go, little glue on there. We've already got this assembled, so we'll take these pegs on the bottom of the window shutters, put them into these holes, and then slide this in. So let's see how well this works. All right, and with all of this in, we'll close our windows, and we have officially done what the instructions said. Though, interestingly, there's not enough room for these windows to fully close. Yeah. So they're actually out a little bit, which may have been the purpose of the design. I don't know. But they are actually not going to close and be flat. Not without some pressure anyway, and I don't want to break anything. But I actually kind of like the angled look. What do you guys think? You know, that's not too bad. And then when all is said and done, and the glue has fully dried, which this has not, we should still be able to open these back up. So I think I'll leave it like this, and we can move on. This is the end of step 80. FYI, if this really does bug you, you can open the windows back up and take some sandpaper and just sand down the inside until it fits the way you want. But I think I'm going to leave it with the angle there, because I kind of like that look. Alrighty, here we are with step 81, and this is a very easy one. We have part H3, and we have paper piece number 7. And take a note of that little cutout right there. That's going to line up with that cutout. So the side that has H3 printed on it is the interior. And this is going to glue on just like so. So let me go ahead and make that happen. And there you go. All glued in and looking spectacular. Alrighty, here's what we're going to need for step 82. This is going to be a fun one. We need 2 F10 pieces, 2 F11 pieces, B2, 3 K12s, and you need paper piece 17. Now, interestingly, this is the first paper piece that's not a punch out. Everything else has actually been mostly pre-cut, so we could just punch it out. But once it gets big, with lots of little holes in the middle, suddenly we have to do it by hand. You may notice it is not a perfect cut. That's actually intentional. I didn't want to screw it up in that stage, because what I've done is just enough so that I can line up the edges, at least some edges, and make sure all of these holes are perfectly in alignment as well. And once I've done that and I've glued it down, just flip it over and bring an X-Acto knife around the edge to trim off the excess. So it will still look quite good in the end. But this is where we're at the moment. To kick off this part, note this right here is the back. This with these 2 slots here is the front. That's how we're going to refer to this. So in this orientation, on the left hand side, we're going to put these F11 pieces in from underneath. So let's go ahead and put the tab into the slots. And there you go. Should look like that when you're done. And now we're going to take the F10 pieces, and those will go into these 2 slots here. And there you go. Look at that. All right, now we have a base on stilts. Now is the time when we're going to glue our paper on top. Make sure all of those holes line up as well as the edges. So let me go ahead and do that, and I'll do the trim, and I'll be right back. Alrighty, so here we are, all glued in, all trimmed up, and looking pretty spectacular. Only thing left is take these K11 planks, or K12 planks, and you're going to put them into these 2 holes in the rear, and then the right hole in the front. Do not put one into this hole yet. It will be coming, but not just yet. Alrighty. And there we go. 3 posts in place, and that is the end of step 82. Alrighty, y'all. Step 83 is where things start getting really fun. We're going to kick things off with this assembly from step 80. And this tab here is going to go into this slot right here in the rear. So let's get that in. All right, a little something like that. Now we're going to take our step 79 assembly, and that's going to go into this slot right here with that tab. Oh, and I should note these these parts right here and over here, they're actually going to hook into the slots on the top of the K12s for this piece. So let's make that happen too. All right. Look at that. That was a little tougher to get in than it seemed, than it probably should have been, but it's in. We're good to go, and we can move forward. Next up, we have our kitchen counter. Note that little notch right there? That is going to go right into the corner over here. Okay, so it should just sit right in there just like that. And of course, we're going to want to glue all of that in. So let me make that happen. Alrighty, look at that. Now, we're going to take this beauty and we're going to glue it to the back wall over here. So let's make that happen too. Alright, look at that. How pretty. Alright, next up, we have paper piece number 8. And that is going to go right there. I should say 1-8. And that is going to go right there. So let's get that glued in. Alrighty, there it is. This is one of those pieces I don't understand though. I mean, you're basically taking a printed paper product and gluing it on top of another printed paper product. So why didn't they just print this? I mean, it's not like the thickness difference is really going to be noticeable to anyone, but hey, is what it is. And now that is in. So next up, we're going to take our little kitchen island here, and that is going to glue right in there, just like that. So let's go ahead and get that glued in too. And there it is. Look at that. All right, not much left. We do have to glue our stools, which will go right in here, but and technically we're supposed to do that first, but I think at this point we are okay to go ahead and put in the other K12, which will go in right here. So let me do that, then I'll glue the stools in, and I'll be right back. Alrighty, there you are. Post in, stools in, and look at that kitchen. Absolutely amazing. And that completes step 83. Let's see what's next. All right, here we are at step 84. And what we're going to do is take one of our LEDs here, and we've got part M66 here. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the 2 wires, we're going to run them through the wide end and through that hole and pull it all the way through. And there we go, nice and tight. And now what we're going to do is take this piece, which is D15, and it's basically going to sit on here like that. And we're going to take D11 here, we're going to trap the cable between it by putting those 2 posts into those 2 holes. Should look like that when you're done. You can fold the cable down if you want. You're going to need to here in a minute anyway. But there we go, and that is the end of step 84. Alrighty, here we are with step 85. And we have 2 E1s. Now, you can do it like this, but what I'm actually going to do is like this, because I want this to be the interior. The top, this is going to be the roof, and the top of the roof is actually going to get covered so that that E1 engraving is covered. The inside will not. So if someone gets real low and looks in, they might see it. So I'm going to try and avoid that. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this assembly, and you note those 2 tabs? Those will go into these 2 holes here, 1 per hole. Make sure that the cable here is coming back towards these holes. All right. So let's see if we can't get those in. You know what? The instructions actually have us do both of these first and then add this. I'm going to add this now. This is D16, and it's what's going to go into these rear holes here. So let's get that in too, just like that. And if you want, you can actually run your cables through the hole in D16. Just like that. And now we'll take our other E1 and put it onto those two pegs to finish off this roof assembly. And there we go. Look at that. That looks great. All right, let's see what's next. All right, here's what we're going to need for step 86. We have H8 and H12. And what we're going to do here, we're going to go ahead and glue these in. H8 here, these big slots are going to go over these two K12 posts on this side. So let's make that happen. All right, should look like that when you're done. And H12 here is going to go between these two planks just like that. So let's get this glued in too. Alrighty, should look like that when you're done. Very cool. Alright, for step 87, we're going to bring our roof back out again. And what we're going to do is put these holes onto these posts right there. For the cable, make sure that it's coming down inside. Ooh, that's not good. There we go. That's better framing. Coming down inside this hole here. And it's going to line up with that little slot right there on the side of the wall. So let's see if we can make that happen. All right, and there we go. The roof is on. The cables are coming right out the back. Now they are going to come down through the little groove we've got right here, but there's no place for them to go just yet. And that is it for getting these things attached. And to finish off step 87, we have these two pieces of paper. These are 2-27, both of them. And we're basically just going to glue them on to the top of our roof, one on either side. So let me go ahead and make that happen. And there we go. Look at that. Awesome. And that, my friends, officially marks the 1/3 mark of completion here. And look at this. I mean, we've got a bunch of planters here. We've got our ottoman with books. We've got our couch, some stairs, and of course, our kitchen. And that just looks amazing. I cannot wait to see what comes next. I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you next time. Have a great day.